The crypto market ebbs and flows between Bitcoin and altcoins. Right now, the money is moving into BTC, but it's only a matter of time before market greed puts altcoins in the green. Now, Polkadot is one of the few popular altcoins that has yet to properly pump, and this means DOT's upside move could be massive when the next crypto market rotation comes around. Today, I'm going to give you a quick overview of Polkadot, bring you up to speed on what the project has been up to, and tell you about the upcoming milestones that will take DOT to the moon. Now, I hate to be uncouth, but I need to hit you with some truth. Financial advice is not something I do, so if that's what you're looking for, contact a financial advisor near you. Also be aware that I personally hold Polkadot, but I will do my best to be objective as I deliver my thoughts. If crypto content is what you crave, then you've come to the right place. My name is Guy, and my crypto content quality is high. The Coin Bureau has enough of it to make you cry, in a good way. Coins, tokens, news, reviews, exchanges, tutorials, and market moves. I do it for the knowledge, but the views are great too. If what I just said struck a chord, subscribe to the channel and ping that notification bell to get on board. I know time is of the essence, which is why I've divided this video into sections. You can use the timestamps to skip ahead or watch until the end if you want to help me get my bread. That's it for the disclaimers I've got, so let's get started with Polkadot. If you've never heard of Polkadot before, here's everything you need to know. Polkadot was founded in 2016 by Dr. Gavin Wood. Gavin is one of Ethereum's co-founders and served as the Ethereum Foundation's CTO until late 2015. Polkadot was built by Parachains Technologies, a for-profit software company based here in the UK. Polkadot's development is coordinated by the Web3 Foundation, a non-profit based in Switzerland. The Web3 Foundation hosted the first Polkadot ICO in 2017, which raised a whopping $145 million in ETH. Now, over $90 million of this ETH was permanently locked due to a bug in the wallet smart contract. To recoup these losses, the Web3 Foundation hosted another Polkadot ICO in 2019, which is believed to have raised another $100 million. Polkadot's mainnet went live in the spring of 2020, and DOT transfers were enabled in August 2020. Polkadot uses a novel proof-of-stake consensus mechanism called nominated proof-of-stake. Now, nominated proof-of-stake is outside the scope of this video, but the short version is that DOT holders nominate validators by delegating their DOT to them. Polkadot validators secure the relay chain, which is Polkadot's central blockchain. Now, according to Gavin, the relay chain can process over 1,000 transactions per second, which is not too shabby. The relay chain is not smart contract compatible and only supports DOT transactions related to DOT transfers, staking, governance, and parachain slot auctions. Parachains are blockchains that plug in to the relay chain. In contrast to the relay chain, parachains are smart contract compatible and host all Polkadot's dApps. Polkadot's relay chain is limited to 100 parachain slots, and because there are hundreds of projects building on Polkadot, parachain slot auctions are used to determine which project gets a parachain slot. Parachain slot auctions involve bonding DOT to the relay chain. A snapshot is taken at a random time shortly before the auction period ends, and the winner gets a parachain slot. DOT holders can loan their DOT to Polkadot projects participating in parachain slot auctions in exchange for their tokens. Now, this is a new funding mechanism called a parachain loan offering, or PLO. In contrast to an initial coin offering, or ICO, any loaned DOT are not sold or even given to the project. Loaned DOT are simply bonded to the relay chain for the duration of the parachain's lease period. At the end of that lease period, all bonded and loaned DOT are returned. Now, this only scratches the surface of how parachain slot auctions work. If you want to know which projects I think will be securing a parachain slot, you can check out my video about that using the link up there. It's been about 9 months since I last covered Polkadot, and a lot has happened since that time. So here are a few highlights. In January, Grayscale filed for a Polkadot trust with the SEC. Unfortunately, Grayscale's Polkadot trust has yet to materialize, but another Polkadot trust managed to get approval in April. This was Osprey's Polkadot Trust, which is unfortunately limited to accredited investors for the time being. Also in April, Coinbase Ventures announced that it was investing heavily into select projects building on Polkadot, namely Akala. In May, the Polkadot relay chain experienced an issue that almost led to a blockchain halt. As far as I understand, the issue was resolved before this happened. In June, an Asian VC firm pumped $30 million into Polkadot's ecosystem, and a Polkadot ETP began trading on the Swedish stock exchange. Kusama also began its first round of Parachain slot auctions. Now, in case you didn't know, Kusama is an unaudited clone of Polkadot which acts like its live testnet. I'll leave a video about it in the description if you want to learn more. Now, Polkadot's biggest news in June was DOT's listing on the Coinbase exchange, something which was arguably long overdue. In August, Kusama began its second round of Parachain slot auctions, and the second round will end on October the 13th. In September, Polkadot and Solana ETNs, exchange-traded nodes, operated by VanEck, began trading on the German stock market. Despite all these bullish events, you'd be hard-pressed to find evidence of them in DOT's price action. DOT is one of the only blue-chip cryptocurrencies which has yet to set a new all-time high. The question is why, and the answer seems to be China. Decrypt reported back in January that Polkadot was the, quote, hottest cryptocurrency in China. This has been the case for quite some time, and it seems the China hype began back in November, when China's BSN blockchain project added Polkadot to its itinerary. As we all know, China cracked down on crypto mining in mid-May, and this seems to have spooked a lot of Chinese DOT holders into selling. In a video to the Chinese Polkadot community in July, Gavin warned that cryptocurrency was on the brink of, quote, major regulation. And in retrospect, that was a pretty prophetic statement. China's most recent crackdown on cryptocurrency transactions has made it very difficult for the average Chinese crypto holder to buy or sell their coins and tokens. It's likely a lot of them sold their DOT as a result. Now, when you combine this with the sell pressure coming from the Web3 Foundation, Parity Technologies, Polkadot's early investors, and DOT's above-average inflation, well, what you see is what you get. Now, the silver lining here is that DOT has held up quite well in recent dips compared with other major cryptocurrencies. And there's also one major milestone that could easily take DOT to new all-time highs, and that is Polkadot's own Parachain slot auctions. Gavin mentioned in an interview back in May that Polkadot's Parachain slot auctions would be taking place by the end of Q3. This was dependent on the completion of the audit of Polkadot's Parachain code, which was apparently delayed. In a recent interview, Gavin said that the audit would be complete in the coming days. Once the audit is done, Polkadot developers will need to fix any issues identified by the audit, and then the Polkadot community will be able to vote to start Polkadot's first round of Parachain slot auctions. However, there seem to be two more conditions which must be met before Polkadot's Parachain slot auctions can begin. As I mentioned in my video about Kusama's Parachain slot auctions, Polkadot developers first need to see that Kusama is stable with multiple parachains. As I mentioned a few moments ago, Kusama's second round of Parachain slot auctions will conclude in less than a week, and this could be the performance threshold that Polkadot developers are looking for. Another thing that Polkadot needs to do before Parachain slot auctions can begin is introduce a special parachain called Statement. Now, Statement is basically a parachain that makes it possible for Polkadot to mint fungible and non-fungible tokens. Statement will be required for Polkadot projects to issue tokens to any people who loan their DOT for their Parachain slot auctions. According to Parachains.info, we should see the Statement parachain go live any day now. Once that's happened, Polkadot devs will again need to make sure that it's functioning smoothly before giving the green light for full-blown Parachain slot auctions on Polkadot. Luckily for us, Kusama's Parachain slot auctions can give us an idea of what to expect from the Parachain slot auctions on Polkadot. The winners of Kusama's first round of Parachain slot auctions were Karura, Moonriver, Shiden, Bifrost, and Kala. Every single one of the projects is planning on participating in Polkadot's Parachain slot auctions as Akala, Moonbeam, Astar Network, Bifrost, and Fala, respectively. Now, it's likely that these projects will be the winners of Polkadot's first round of Parachain slot auctions, and so far the best performer in terms of price has been Moonbeam's Moonriver. I suspect this is because Moonbeam and Moonriver support Solidity smart contracts, leverage the Ethereum virtual machine, and are also interoperable with Ethereum. I'll quickly point out that almost all Kusama's Parachain slot auction winners were listed on KuCoin shortly afterwards, and if you don't have a KuCoin account yet, well, you can check out my KuCoin tutorial in the top right. I also have a cracking deal on VIP Level 3 accounts there. Anyways, more than 1.3 million KSM were bonded in the first round alone, accounting for about 15% of KSM's circulating supply. This is important because all this KSM will be out of circulation for the duration of its respective parachain lease periods. This reduction in supply means more volatility for KSM, and that could do wonders for its price in the future, especially as more KSM is locked up in subsequent parachain slot auctions. Interestingly, every Kusama project so far has opted to lease a parachain for the longest amount of time possible, which is slightly less than a year. On Polkadot, the maximum parachain lease period lasts 2 years, and if we see the same trend there, this means any DOT you loan to Polkadot projects could be locked up until late 2023. As such, be sure to check this before you participate in any parachain slot auctions on Kusama or Polkadot, and be sure to balance the rewards you stand to gain with the opportunity cost of keeping your DOT locked. If you're not sure how to do that, I'll leave a link to my video about how to research cryptocurrencies in the description. Now, besides parachain slot auctions, Polkadot has 2 more milestones left on its roadmap. The first is parachain interoperability. As I've mentioned in a few of my earlier videos, Polkadot has been having a hard time making parachains interoperable. This is not an issue that's unique to Polkadot either. Ethereum developers are also working on how to make shards effectively interoperable in Ethereum 2.0. Now, Polkadot's solution to its cross-chain communication issue is XCM, which I won't even try to get into here. I'll leave a link to a blog post about it in the description if you're interested. XCM seems to be in its testnet phase and should be ready to ship soon. Now, Polkadot's second milestone is the introduction of parathreads. The Polkadot pros among you will know that parathreads are essentially pay-as-you-go parachains. Parathreads could open the door to institutional adoption for Polkadot, and a few of its projects have already had some traction on that end. For example, Unique Network partnered with the United Nations to sell NFTs to help fight climate change. Now, after those 2 milestones are met, the next ones will be proposed via community governance, and these proposals can be seen on the Polkassembly website. As you can see, there isn't all that much going on here, and this seems to be because of voter apathy. Put simply, DOT holders aren't bothering to table proposals or even vote, as is revealed by the low voter turnouts in Polkadot's recent referendums. Now, this might have to do with Polkadot's elaborate and lengthy governance process, which requires bonding a significant amount of DOT, which risks being burned if the proposal is rejected. This is probably a part of why Gavin is hoping for a remake of Polkadot's current governance process. Even so, Gavin's motivation is decentralization. Right now, all Polkadot proposals are ultimately approved or rejected by Polkadot's technical committee, which consists of personnel from Parity Technologies and the Web3 Foundation. Gavin mentioned in that aforementioned video to the Chinese Polkadot community that the technical committee needs to take more of an advisory role to ensure Polkadot becomes sufficiently decentralized. Now, this conveniently brings me to my current concerns about Polkadot. Firstly, there's the apparent disappearance of Gavin between May and September this year, evidenced by the absence of tweets during that time. Now, this would be a silly metric were it not for the fact that when Gavin reappeared in September, much of his rhetoric was focused on cryptocurrency regulations. Most of this banter has happened IRL, notably at the Messari Mainnet conference in late September, when Gavin did multiple interviews with different news outlets and influencers. Oddly enough, Gavin is happy about incoming cryptocurrency regulations, and his reasoning for this is robust. In short, regulations will force cryptocurrencies to decentralize. Gavin also highlighted the tendency towards centralization that we're seeing with many cryptocurrency projects and DeFi protocols, and how regulations will bring cryptocurrency back to its decentralized roots. The only problem here is that Polkadot might be on the hit list of regulators like the SEC due to its relative centralization. And this isn't just speculation either. Recall that an unpublished securities assessment of Polkadot by the Crypto Ratings Council gave it a score of 4.75 out of 5. Now, while it's true that this assessment was made before Polkadot's mainnet went live, its score is probably not all that different today as far as the SEC is concerned. Although Gavin is pushing for decentralization, this decentralization probably can't happen until Polkadot has successfully rolled out its Parachains slot auctions. Even then, Polkadot's centralized development team will likely be required to ship the remaining 2 milestones, which will complete the project. In other words, it might be a race against the clock for Polkadot to tie up its loose ends and decentralize before regulators come knocking. Now, even then, we could see some issues, and Gavin's long absence could be because Polkadot has already gotten that knock and just hasn't made it public yet. That is complete speculation on my part, but this has happened with other crypto projects, such as USDC issuer Circle, which only recently revealed its cooperation with the SEC. That said, it's more likely that Gavin's absence was due to his focus on Polkadot's development and the implosion of the Chinese Polkadot community due to regulations. Now, on that note, almost all of Polkadot's top projects are Chinese, and now that the average Chinese DOT holder can't access Polkadot's ecosystem, this could be a disaster for its growth. Conversely, we could see hundreds of thousands of new users flock to Polkadot when its parachains start plugging in and dApps start to deploy, and DOT will pump for weeks as a result. As we've seen with other cryptocurrencies like Avalanche, this is the rule rather than the exception, and it's what I predict for Polkadot. Now, if you didn't understand the Avalanche reference, well, you'll have to watch my most recent video about it using the link in the top right. If Polkadot has fallen off your radar in recent months, well, join the club. While other cryptocurrencies have made massive strides in development and adoption, Polkadot has seemingly fallen by the wayside. This ultimately boils down to the repeated delays of its Parachain slot auctions, which should have begun months ago. From where I'm standing, Polkadot has already satisfied the prerequisites for this to happen, and I personally find it hard to believe that they're being held back by an audit. I think it's much more likely that Polkadot's developers are just waiting for the right moment to make the announcement. Between May and August, the crypto market wasn't looking all that hot. Running Parachain slot auctions during that time would not have been wise, as DOT's hype card would be used up for pathetic percentage gains. In September, the Chinese government cracked down on crypto. Running Parachain slot auctions during that time would have been borderline insulting to all the Chinese investors who had been waiting for them. Now we're in October. The crypto market is up, Gavin is back on Twitter, and although Bitcoin is in the spotlight at the moment, as I mentioned in the introduction, that rotation into altcoins is coming. When that happens, it will be the perfect time for Polkadot's Parachain slot auctions, and I won't be surprised in the slightest if that's when the first round begins. Now, while I am concerned about regulators running after DOT, I know there are much bigger fish they need to fry first. By the time they get around to it, Polkadot and all its best projects will have reached their final form, and DOT will have reached its rightful place on the cryptocurrency leaderboards. Top 5, baby. If you're as ready for Parachain slot auctions as I am, give that like button a slam. Remember to subscribe to the channel and ping that notification bell as well. If you've already watched every video on this channel, you'll be happy to know that I have a second one where I upload regularly. Coin Bureau Clips has all the behind-the-scenes content you need, and it's where I give you an emergency update when the crypto market makes you want to scream. You can also find me on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, where I'm still waiting to be verified. Nightmare process, I'll tell you. Now, thankfully, my Telegram has finally got the blue check, so when you join, you'll know you're not going to get wrecked. Better yet, You'll get all the daily updates that will optimize your crypto bets. If you're wondering where you can go to find out what other cryptocurrencies I hold as part of my crypto portfolio, you can subscribe to my weekly newsletter where you'll also get the knowledge you need to become a crypto pro. If you want to look as fresh as me, head on over to the Coin Bureau merch store to grab your own shirt, sweater, or beanie. Links to these resources and more are waiting for you down below. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much if you stayed. My next video is not that far away.